Hey everyone, this is going to be my quick unscripted review of Fang the Hunter, formerly known as Fang the Sniper, formerly known as Knack the Weasel. He's had a lot of names over the years. Now, this is the 4-inch Jakks version. The 2-inch version is identical as far as I know, the only difference being um, less posability. The issue is this guy's posability is terrible. So here's the long and short of it. His colors are great. The paint job, the print job, whatever you want to call it, is great. The actual molds are great, the shaping and everything. So visually, he looks great. His articulation is terrible, and his stability is abysmal. So as an action figure, he fails miserably. As a visual 3D depiction of a character that has not gotten much merchandise at all in the 30-something years he's existed, pretty cool. Um, so yeah, it depends what you want him for. To quickly go over how bad the articulation is, by the way, you can see how good the mold is, the print job. The little fang itself could have used a bit more shading, but the rest of it's cool, and it's a little weird how sleek his jaw is. Like, in the right lighting, it almost glistens like it's like, shiny plastic instead of fur, and you go, well, this is a plastic figure. Of course it would do that. A lot of the other Jakks figures don't have that issue. Like, even the 4-inch Shadow, who's just pure black and should glisten a lot, he doesn't really, which, fits because they're fur. They're fur-based creatures. Anyway, so yeah, some of the plastic's a little odd, but otherwise, he looks fantastic. The belt protrudes, nice detail. Uh, Tails looking springy and sharp. The ears, the weasel ears, look great. Everything about him looks pretty great. But here's the issues. His articulation is nonsensical. First and foremost, this tail is on a one little ball joint, but it swivels almost independently of that ball joint a lot of the time. So while that does get you a lot of motion, a lot of freedom, his tail is shaped such that you're just going to poke the back of his head in almost anything you do. The best you can get is this, where it wraps around. So that's a little odd. His arms are positioned such that this hat gripping motion is never actually able to grip the hat. And that's a pitfall of Jakks not including opposable elbows with most of their 4-inch Sonic figures. So he's constantly looking like he's trying to hold his hat, and he never can do it. So right there, we've got two issues. This doesn't work all that well. This doesn't work all that well. His legs, these are insufferable. Look at this. His socks, whatever you want to call these, the tops of his boots. If the top of them went just a millimeter further up on the mold, his legs wouldn't be able to do this and crack inward. But they do crack inward constantly, and it makes him impossible to pose. This pose right here, where he's like kind of leaning forward, he's not even flat on his feet. This is as good as it's ever going to get with him. So if you plan on setting him on a shelf and never touching him again, great. He might actually be a decent value for you. But if you like to actually, jigger these fellows around and pose them, he will tip over on you sooner rather than later. The slightest vibration will send him. See? The gentlest tap, he falls over. And it's all because this moves inward. It's a terrible design choice. Furthermore, the articulation he does have is largely useless. Look at this. This white piece, the high collar of the sock, whatever you want to call it, it is posable for no reason, independent of the shoe or the leg. This provides you with no additional mobility because his feet aren't at a particularly defined angle, meaning that unlike with Rouge, where this part of the foot actually does make a huge difference in how it's positioned, here it's genuinely nothing. It's the equivalent of like a hollow shell of plastic around the joints. So I don't know why they advertise that as a selling point when it helps not at all with articulation. Like, you could have done this whole, shoe pivot without needing this separate part here. This is a waste of articulation, and what would have gone a lot better is toe articulation like they had in that 2-inch classic Sonic figure, just for stabilization of standing, or have his feet at an actual angle, an inward angle, to support his weight instead of what's currently happening, where, let me try to illustrate this better. See how his legs are naturally spread, like there's an angle to them? The issue with the feet being relatively flat with that angle is that when his body weight's applied, his feet spread out and push. And so, yeah, his feet needed a sharper angle to justify this sock articulation, if you want to call it that. But as it stands, there's just no point to how this guy is designed. And it's very frustrating. It's very, very frustrating. Yeah, he's missing vital elbow articulation, and his arms are not bent such that this makes any sense as it is. His leg articulation, the extra points of articulation over the 2-inch version make no sense and are effectively worthless. I imagine the 2-inch version, because it's lighter and smaller, poses a lot better than this guy. It's probably a better overall figure. And his accessory, which I do not have here, apologies, it's elsewhere right now. It's a tiny little sheet of paper, smaller than this Post-it note. It's like yay big. It's a corner of this Post-it note, and it's the same durability. It's just a tiny little, not so great piece of paper that is like a wanted poster ripped from Sonic Mania, you know, like the Where's Fang Been, or maybe it was Sonic Generations Fang wanted poster, but I think those were just Bean and Bark. In any event, it's a reference to the games, but it's terrible. It's printed on like regular printer paper almost, laminated regular printer paper. It's super dainty, and it's not a good toy. Now, it's as an art supply, it's useful. Like if you're making a little Sonic diorama, and you want to tape it to something, it's cool. If you want to make like a sticker out of it, homemade, it's a neat little print, but it's a terrible action figure accessory because it's just a like 2x1 sheet of paper, 2x1 inch. So it's effectively useless. So basically, consider this guy as having no accessory, like his 2-inch version, having probably the worst stability of any 4-inch figure from Jakks that at least I've seen, and I have like 10 of them, I think, at this point, and he's easily the worst by a mile because his head is humongous and heavy, his tummy is pretty big, his feet are angled such that they're built to spread when weight is applied. Just everything about him is poorly designed on a physics and gravitational level. He's perfectly fine. Again, great sculpt visually, color-wise, great paint applications, great everything visually. So, yeah, I am sad that he's a classic version of the character. If you're new to the series, you might be going, oh, well, there have only been classic renditions of him when he appeared in the very first Sonic racing game. But not the very first, but one of the OG, the very first kart racing game, way back when, in the 90s. Sonic Triple Trouble, and even Sonic Superstars, right? He's always been envisioned in his classic form. Well, if you've been following along for a long time, his Archie interpretations, as well as his IDW interpretations, if I'm not mistaken, they have a more modernized body for him. They have a version of him that would fit alongside all the modern Sonic characters. He's been depicted with modern proportions, so it's kind of frustrating that they're giving us this 4-inch version that just does not fit with any of the modern characters. I understand why they did that and why they chose that as the one version of Fang they will likely ever do over at Jakks. I get it. But it's still frustrating, and it doesn't help with the weight problems. You know what I mean? Because if he had modern proportions, he'd be able to stand better, like all the modern figures. So, yeah. Long story short, there are 3 camps of Sonic figure buyers. There are collectors who are going to buy everything and anything simply because they are collecting, and that's the point of collecting. There are Fang fans, like myself, Knack fans, who remember him as Knack, and genuinely have been waiting decades for a cool figure rendition of him. You know, suckers like me who kind of have to go with this guy. And then there are casual Sonic fans who are, you know, maybe you're picking up only the characters you care about, and you see this guy and you're like, is this a good impulse buy? The answer is no. So for the collectors, you're going to get him, obviously. For the Fang fans, you really have no other choice. This might be the only time you ever get Fang, but if you're going to get him, maybe go for the 2-inch version, so that you're not spending more on a useless accessory, and absolutely pointless articulation, and a worse balanced figure. And then for the people who are just casual fans, if you truly do not care about this guy's look, don't bother. It's not worth it. It's not like Vector, the 4-inch Vector, where I saw him at, you know, Walmart, and on an impulse I picked him up, even though I don't really care about the Chaotix and Vector all that much. Picked him up and I'm like, wow, this is the most stable, well-built figure that I've seen in a while. This guy's awesome, and he can hold up other figures, and he's just such a fun figure to have in terms of how he can interact with the others. That's a great impulse buy if you don't care all that much about the character himself. This guy, exact opposite. This is the worst impulse buy you can get. Like, look at this right now. He's already trying to tip backwards, and his tail is precariously... The base of the curve of his tail is the only thing holding him up. So, in conclusion, TLDR. If you're a collector, you have no choice. If you're a Fang fan, go for the 2-inch version that's going to be more stable and still get you the exact same gorgeous mold. If you are a casual Sonic fan who doesn't really particularly care about Fang, you will not be pleasantly surprised by this guy. You will get nothing out of the experience of owning him. You will just have wasted your money. So that's my review as a slightly disheartened Knack the Weasel, Fang the Hunter fan. Yeah, thanks for watching, and be sure to check out my other Sonic content, of which there is plenty on the channel. Bye. The review felt pretty incomplete without me showing off the poster. There it is, taped onto a brown and beige Lego train. Steampunk train that kind of fits the Wild Wild West vibe of the Wanted poster. You can see it works within the context of a little Lego Sonic diorama, but as an accessory for an action figure, not good. And one more thing I wanted to complain about with this figure, because you really need to know if you're going to buy him. The legs, his actual leg joints, on top of all the other issues with them, like the dome posability, they're just too thin. They're not as thick as the other 4-inch figures' limbs, you know what I mean? They're not the thickness of even Jet the Hawk's 4-inch figure limbs. And that makes no sense given that Fang here, has so much more head weight to juggle. So it's just ridiculous that on top of not preventing him from leaning forward because of how short the socks are, they've also given him these lanky, limp leg joints that just don't have the rigidity of other 4-inch figures. Just a lot of mistakes were made with this guy production-wise, but he looks alright.